Okay, today we've been sent a case to evaluate. Patient is missing tooth number 7. The notes that came along with the case were, can you review this implant case? I grafted the site on June 11, 2015. The patient is wearing a flipper at this time. I'm concerned with the density of the bone and wondering if I flap and potential graft, will I be okay to place this implant? And also I'm aware that this will not be a screw retained implant. So there are quite a few good things that we can take a look at in this particular case. As usual, I'm going to start with two things. I'm going to start with what type of guide choices do I have here, and then take a look at our integration design. Certainly in this particular case we have all four choices of guides now. We have a classic guide option, which would require a second to scan, so I would say in this situation that's out the door. We have the OptiGuide option, which is the guide milled and made by CCAT and verified and given a certificate of accuracy. And choice number 3 would be a DigiGuide, which is the new digitally printed guide available from CCAT through Burbank Dental Lab here in the United States. And then certainly we have the CEREC guide option. Now, having taken a closer look at this case in advance, this is going to be a very tight case. So with that being said, my choice in this particular situation would be for an OptiGuide, not a DigiGuide and not a CEREC Guide 2. And the reason being is while the DigiGuide and the CEREC Guide 2 are both unbelievably wonderful options, I do have concerns with any level of inaccuracies there may be, whether it's a quarter millimeter, half millimeter. In these very tight cases, I prefer to have the absolute most precise guide that comes with a fundamental certificate of accuracy. And the OptiGuide does give that to us. So in this particular case, I would opt for an OptiGuide through CCAT. So our guide cost will be roughly $350 US, plus or minus a few dollars for shipping and things. To do an OptiGuide, we would require a CEREC scan. In this particular case, our CEREC scan would need to be extend from premolar to premolar to provide stability. So we can take a look here and see that we do have a full arch CEREC scan. It looks very well integrated. So we have everything that we need to do an OptiGuide. Our tooth was also designed here, so let's go ahead and take a look at our overall tooth design. So my only critique in this particular case of the tooth design is going to be, is this where we really want the lateral incisor coming out of? So by this, what do I mean? I mean, if we were to draw our line like so, and draw a secondary line like so, we would see that our margin in this particular case has been drawn higher. Now, in a perfect world, I would have drawn this margin more along here. And why does that matter? Because the way we teach implant planning design is based on a prosthetic position, and we know that apically we would like to place our implant approximately 3 millimeters apical to the proposed gingival margin. Now, I don't have the benefit of knowing whether or not due to tissue deficiency this is a possibility, and we can kind of see right through here that we do have a tissue deficiency. So maybe this case may be an option for a connective tissue graft to get high aesthetics. Also, I don't have the benefit of knowing whether or not we have a high smile line on this patient. So these are some of the scenarios that we take a look at, and what I want us to learn to evaluate a little bit more thoroughly, and certainly something that we do go through in our Ultimate 3D workshop. So let's continue based on the plan that we have, but do keep in mind that this may not be the ideal plan for us. So again, as we can see here, I think this just may be a little bit bulky right through here. So I would like to see us take a few more minutes on the design to give ourselves a chance of our design being more accurate. Okay. So the The case did come to me with a implant pre-planned as we do request, and here this is why it was said to us that they understand that this implant will not be screw retained, and I do want to come back to that here in a moment, but for the time being, based on our current knowledge set and current available offerings, this will not be a screw retained restoration, but I would like to share with you how we can make this a screw retained restoration. So, in looking at our implant plan itself, I would like to say that this is pretty well designed. I do have a few not major areas of concern, but areas that I do want us to be aware of. So if we take a look here, here's what it looks like our bone is doing. Just like so. So we can see that we are pretty well centered. Right in here is where we have our deficiency of bone in terms of having a full solid 1.5 millimeters around our implant, and also this would correspond to the area of thinness in the ridge development as well from the extraction or however long the tooth has been missing. But based on this, I think this implant is very well placed. I don't think there are too many differences or changes that I would make in this particular implant design itself. But what I did want to take the opportunity to show the viewers is a couple of minor things. One is I might make a mesiodistal change to this overall implant, and the reason being is our mesiodistal position will greatly affect our papilla, and in looking at this, if I were to draw our adjacent roots, they would look somewhat like this. Okay. And I think we have a little bit more room here on the distal of the implant or the mesial of the canine. So I would have a tendency to want to just slightly move that implant over to better center that between the roots to maintain the maximum amount of interproximal bone to maintain my papilla. And as you can see, when I move that, we can see right here that we move the implant itself to the distal part of the tooth. So then I would probably, in this situation, just tilt that implant to get it back into the center and maybe tweak it a little bit right there. So now we're back into the center there. We're giving ourselves the best chance of maintaining that maintaining that interproximal bone right here and right here, so we can maintain and develop any papilla in these spots as well. So these are the minor things there. The next and probably the last thing I'd like to share or discuss in this particular case is, while we're worried that this may not be enough bone, one of the things that I've noticed is this case is planned for a Noble Active from Noble Biocare implant, a 3.5 by 13 millimeter implant. And what we do know about this implant, based certainly on the manufacturer's touting and also from personal experience, is that this particular implant is certainly a end cutting, I like to use the word dynamic implant, that while it does some cutting, does also some expansion. So instead of looking at the amount of space that's available post implant placement, let's take a look at how the amount of space available after osteotomy cutting. So in this particular situation, what I like to do is come over here to the change implant button, and I'll go to generic for my implant, and I'll use the drill, the final osteotomy drill that I intend to use here as my implant plan. So in this particular case, that would be a 2.8 by a 2.4 drill would be my guess on a grafted site for a maxillary incisor on a 3.5 millimeter implant. And when we look at it this way, we can see that we do actually have a little bit more bone than we originally believed. So this would lead me to believe that this is probably going to be a fairly straightforward bone volume site. Okay, so I wouldn't be overly worried. Now, that does still mean that I would double check after I'm done. I would be prepared to possibly graft this buckle area at the time of placement. Other than that, I think we are pretty good. The only other thing I think we should take a look at is our apical position of our implant. And here we can see that we're approximately 3.36 millimeters below our proposed gingival margin. So in theory, we could certainly move this implant slightly coronal, and that would give us a more ideal placement there. So overall, very, very well done. There are a few minor things I think we can improve. Now, I keep saying last thing, obviously there's one more thing here. One of the things that I think we should always consider is the use of how to make this a screw retained restoration. And in having our screw hole, due to the bone volume, come through the buccal of the tooth, certainly a custom abutment and a cemented restoration is the norm. What I would like to do is quickly show you another option for that, exclusively available to Nobel platform implants. So what I've done here is I pulled up a video for the angulated screw channel through Nobel Biocare, and let's go ahead and take a peek at this video. So this is a relatively new offering, approximately maybe a little bit less than a year old, from Nobel Biocare, and it's available exclusively through your laboratory through Nobel ProCenter network. And what it allows you to do, it allows you to take non-screw retainable restorations and make them screw retained through their unique process of allowing you to change the angulation of the implant access hole. Now, the implant obviously does not change, but the access hole changes. And this is done through their unique Omni-Grip screw head and Omni-Grip driver. And then they're able to angle the channels, because we can angle the channels quite easily. What we can't do then is typically access the head of the screw and make that happen. So hopefully that is helpful. So this certainly can be a screw retained restoration, final restoration, done through your network of laboratories. Thank you very much, and hope you found this video helpful.